I'm going to shock the world here.
There's no way you disagree with this.
Stop. John Leahy?
Yes.
You're going to take a player spot away from a president?
In my head, here's the box. I'm going to bring back the box. But then there's another box inside of it.
Oh, there's a smaller
You're
box.
in there.
They roll 1 for 10.
Terrible.
10%. How are you going to do that? You can't win games like that.
Bobcat breakdown.
Bobcat breakdown.
Bobcat breakdown.
Bobcat breakdown starting right now.
Welcome to Bobcat Breakdown. I'm your host, Maddie Kelly, and joining me tonight are my analysts, Anthony Rossi and Emily Sweeney. The volleyball team is the only fall sport remaining in the MAAC tournament is almost here. After finishing 6th in the MAAC conference last year, the Bobcats had a much better regular season this year, finishing 2nd place in the MAAC. Heading into the MAAC tournament as the 2nd seed, which team will pose the biggest challenge to the volleyball team in the MAAC tournament? Emily, start us off.
Yeah, let me tell you first who it's not. I think the basic answer is a rematch of Fairfield's going to be the most difficult thing. And I think that you can't say that because Fairfield and Quinnipiac, those games are all momentum. My answer is the biggest opponent, the most difficult one for this team is going to be Marist. They went 1-1 in regular season play with Marist. Yes, they did that with a lot of the teams in the MAAC, but Quinnipiac only won in 5 sets. It took them 5 sets to get that win against Marist, and they just can't seem to find a way to stop Sasha van der Merwe. The other outside hitters, middle blockers, this team can stop. They can defend against. They just haven't found a successful way to defend against this top outside hitter in the MAAC. In the last game, the Bobcats allowed her alone to score 25 kills. You cannot let one person dominate that much. And with Marist, listen, if they face Marist, it will be in a semifinal game. It'll be their first game of the tournament since they have that bye. And I just think that you have to say Marist, looking at the fact that they might overlook this game and go to the end game with Fairfield. They might maybe see them as a bigger opponent, but honestly, Marist has given them so much more trouble.
So hear me out, Emily. This is a great take with Marist. And I know you said that Fairfield's the basic answer, but when the heck did Marist win their last MAAC tournament game?
I don't think that matters.
I don't understand how you think that Marist is their biggest opponent when you're literally not talking about the #1 seed in Fairfield. They're the host site. They have home court advantage, and they have 5 players that have been dominating recently. One of them, Michaela Howe, 230 kills on the year, averaging 2.77 kills per set. Allie Elliott, who just won MAAC Player of the Week, 232 kills, which leads the entire MAAC in kills, by the way. 2.61 kills per average per set, and she can play defense too. 228 digs in her time here this year, and she has 26 aces on that as well. Maya Walker, sophomore middle blocker, who's been dominating as well. She's dominated the net, 92 blocks, at least 1 block per set, which is still just crazy. Blakely Montgomery as well, their setter is
It's a lot of
really
names.
clean.
It's a lot of names
I
and
understand
stats,
that, but that's just
they go
saying.
back and forth with Marist, not with Fairfield. Fairfield's always momentum. Whoever gets, that momentum in that set, in the last one, it always
here's the
goes
thing,
that
they
way.
haven't won
the
a
names
MAAC
and
playoff
stats,
game
the
yet.
Bobcats can stop those names. They can stop those stats. They cannot stop Sasha
That
van
didn't
der
happen in
Merwe,
the
and
first
that's
game
the
at
problem.
Fairfield, though.
But
It
then
didn't
they
happen at
adjusted.
Fairfield.
Then they adjusted, got the home win in the second game. They have not adjusted
That's
to
talking
Marist.
about Burkhardt Court and not talking about Fairfield,
to Marist
though.
just last week, and I think you have to look at that. They beat Fairfield the last time. They did not beat Marist the last time, and I think that's going to be a struggle for them in the MAAC tournament.
Despite being 6th seed last year, the Bobcats won 4 straight games going into the MAAC tournament. This year, they are a higher seed. However, they've gone 2-2 in their final 4 games leading up to the MAAC tournament. Considering the fact that they are defending MAAC champions, are the expectations getting to them? Anthony, we'll let you go first.
Okay. So I'd say that the expectations are getting to them just a tad. They're not playing like themselves recently, and they're letting teams that shouldn't be walk over them and get back into games. Exhibit number one, this past weekend against Ryder. Ryder was down 2-0 in that game, and they came back to win 3-2. Example number 2, earlier in the season when they played Manhattan on the road, the Jaspers forced the Bobcats to take it to 5 sets. Key word in there is Manhattan. They are not in the playoffs. That is a team that you should not be letting back into a game. I understand that Quinnipiac ended up winning that game, but you can't let Marist, Manhattan, a team that's not in the playoffs, to get back into the game and force 5 sets against a strong Quinnipiac team that is ranked number 2, mind you.
Yeah, I like the 2 games you brought up. My reason's just a little bit different. No, the expectations are not getting to them. The coach, the players, they've all said they don't even look at stats. Ariana Diaz didn't even know she was close to 1,000 kills. Kyle Robinson didn't know that they clinched the second seed until after we went in as reporters and told him about it. I don't think it's the expectations at all. The games you brought up, Ryder, Manhattan, I think the reason that they're struggling is because they play down to the level of their opponents in a lot of their matches. It has nothing to do with the expectations on this team because they simply don't think about it. It has to do with the fact that they play down to the teams they're playing. That Manhattan game, the Bobcats played down to a level that we haven't seen them play at in a really long time.
Exactly
probably
my
since
point.
before then. But it's not the expectations at all because they are trained not to think about that. And I think that's the biggest thing. It is not the expectations getting to them. It's the playing to the level of their opponents.
Great debate, guys, but let's get on to the next question. Unlike last season, this year's MAAC tournament will not be held at a neutral site. The 2023 MAAC tournament will be hosted by the Fairfield Stags. Fairfield is the #1 ranked team in the MAAC, and they will have home court advantage throughout the entire tournament. Do you think that it's fair that the tournament is being held on Fairfield's home court? Emily, take it away.
Maddie, I'm going to start with a simple question for Anthony here. Anthony, where is home for you?
Home is Medway,
That's wrong.
Massachusetts.
Home is where the heart is. And let me tell you right now, the heart is wherever that Quinnipiac Bobcats team is. They have been framed as this family. That is their whole saying. We are a family. We get through this together. Their home is where their heart is, and their heart's going to be out on that court. So who cares if it's at Fairfield? I mean, let me go back to the is it fair thing. Sure, it's not a neutral site, but it is fair. The venues are chosen in a fair and square way by outside parties, and this venue at Fairfield was probably chosen because of how new it is. It was built in 2022, and it actually will be celebrating its first birthday when Quinnipiac plays there on Saturday. And sure, there is some sort of home advantage there, but Coach Kyle Robinson has said himself, it is not their home. It's going to be the home of whoever's fans show up, and home is where the heart is, Anthony, let me tell you.
Well, you kind of confused me at that first question. I thought you were asking me where my home was. But for Quinnipiac, it's at BurtCon. And for Quinnipiac, last year is in Disney. So I think that personally, it's super unfair for a team to have home court advantage at all. Like, say it was at Marist. It's unfair if it's there. It's unfair even if it's at Quinnipiac even. Fairfield knows this court inside and out. They're the #1 seed. They're really good, and like I said before, the stats and the names, they just list themselves, and I think every single year it should be held on a neutral site and not at a specific school.
Only once every 4 years is it at a neutral site, though. Every
Then
other
they
year.
gotta change that.
Next
They gotta
year it's at
change that
Siena.
right now.
All right, guys. We do have to take our first commercial break of the night, but you will get a chance to debate each other again as we have a fun Thanksgiving segment coming up next.
I think it's just vapor with flavor.
It won't hurt my kid like cigarettes, right?
Vaping is safer than smoking, isn't it?
There's really not even that much nicotine in them, right?
My kid?
My kid
knows it's dangerous.
Get your head out of the cloud. Today, nearly 8,000 kids will start vaping, maybe even yours. Learn about the dangers at talkaboutvaping.org.
I don't think that many kids in my son's school even do it.
He makes fun of his friend who vapes.
He would never try it.
She's into soccer.
She's on the honor roll.
She's just not the type.
No way.
No way.
No way.
No way, my kid would never vape.
Get your head out of the cloud. Today, nearly 8,000 kids will start vaping, maybe even yours. Learn about the dangers at talkaboutvaping.org.
Type 2 diabetes can have a big impact on your life, but how can it be prevented? Well, the first step is knowing if you have prediabetes, a serious medical condition that puts you at high risk for type 2 diabetes. 1 in 3 American adults has prediabetes, but more than 80% don't know they have it. The good news is, prediabetes can be reversed, and for many people, healthy changes in their daily routine can make a big difference. Take the 1-minute risk test today at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Thanks for sticking with us on Bobcat Breakdown. If you're just joining us, I'm your host, Maddie Kelly, alongside my 2 analysts, Emily Sweeney and Anthony Rossi. Guys, Thanksgiving is just around the corner, and to get into the spirit, we're going to do a fun Thanksgiving segment. At the Quinnipiac fall season comes to an end, I want you guys to pick 3 fall athletes that you would invite to your Thanksgiving dinner. Whoever you pick, give me the reason why. Anthony, let's go with you first.
Okay, so for my first player, I'm going to go with Evelyn Key. So personally, I don't know a lot about Evelyn Key. I know that she's a very fast player. She's able to score goals and score assists. And she's like I just said, she's a very fast player. I don't know a lot about her because she is a first year, so I want to learn more about her. That's why I'm putting her on my Thanksgiving dinner table. So next I have Alexandra Tenen. Now, this is one of my favorite players to watch on the volleyball team.
Oh, I know.
Her spikes are so powerful, and every single time I see that tweet, Air Tenen is cleared for takeoff, it just makes my heart skip a beat. Alexandra Tenen has one of the best defensive plays that I've ever seen out of a player. I think that she's very underrated, and I think that she should be in the starting lineup 100% of the time.
I agree with you.
And goaltender for the field hockey team, Christina Torres, so talented, so gifted in the net for the field hockey team. She kept the field hockey team in as many games as I can count on my 2 hands. That team did not exist without Christina Torres in the backstop.
Now, I went a bit of a different route with my Thanksgiving table, but let me tell you, I did really like those answers. Alexandra Tenen, I will agree with you. I think she should be starting in that MAAC tournament this weekend as well. But my Thanksgiving dinner at the Sweeney's here. My first guest is Ariana Diaz. Now, I'm trying to form the best dinner table here, best conversations, best way for everybody to learn. Ariana Diaz is a 5th year, so she has a lot of experience. She would assume the role of that wise adult, like the wise aunt, the wise uncle, someone you go to for advice, listen to, and who has so many stories to share at the dinner table. Now my second guest at my dinner, Katie Shanahan from the field hockey team, because you talked about it, she's a 1st year, you want to learn more about her, but even more than that, Shanahan was thrown into a vital role as soon as she got here. She had no time to kind of get into the college spirit, get into being at a university. She went straight in. And she killed it. She would bring the energy, the vitality, the youth. She would make this dinner more exciting, you know, but she'd also be able to learn and grow from those around her, especially in somebody like Ariana Diaz, who has been here for so long. My third guest, now let me tell you, Anthony, one of the things about Thanksgiving, you are always going to get a fight in that family. It's going to be politics, or there's going to be some sort of fight going on, some argument. You need somebody to save the dinner, rescue it. I went with the Golden Glove winner herself, Sofia Lospinoso from the women's soccer team. She's got to save the night. Her save percentage is incredible this year. She had a great season, and she has to save the night here. But I'm kind of curious, Maddie, what is your Thanksgiving dinner table looking like?
Well, guys, obviously I had to stick close to my rugby girls. So first I have Riva Vandervak. She, if you guys didn't know, she's the 2nd highest in tackles in Quinnipiac rugby history. She's an absolute beast on the field, along with her teammate, who I also have, Kat Story. Not only is she a good conversationalist and an amazing athlete, it's just so fun to watch both of them. I don't know if you guys have stalked her Instagram as much as I have, but she does have great style, and I feel like they'd get along. They'd get along so well. And finally, I have to stick with my girl, Ella Barrett. Not only is she a phenomenal field hockey player, I do live with her, but she's the icebreaker here. She's a great comedic relief. She's super kind, caring, and I'd have no other person. Who else would you want at your Thanksgiving dinner?
Yeah, I like that lineup a lot with the rugby, and I think that's a really interesting table as well with the conversations and going on. I think we all have very different but very special Thanksgiving dinner tables to celebrate.
And if I stand corrected, Ella Barrett's also a 1st year, right?
She is a first year.
So she can also learn from the experience of Kat Story and the rest of the squad as well. So kind of the same squads here with Evelyn Key and then Katie Shanahan and then Ella Barrett. They're all learning from the rest of the other 2, and they're just trying to figure out like what's going on, and we're just trying to learn more about them.
Exactly.
All right, guys, that was a lot of fun, but it is time for our second break of the night. Don't go anywhere, because up next we'll debate which fall team had the biggest statement win and who the best KU athlete was in the fall this year.
Maybe you can make retirement happen. After all, you made home ownership happen. Homeschooling yourself on loans, beefing up your credit score.
So I'm pre-approved.
You were like, yes! worry. Color coding listings, ticking boxes, and flushing every toilet in a 20-mile radius. Home sweet home. You aced house hunting. Now get the tips you need to get on track at aceyourretirement.org.
Honey, what I think you need is a socket wrench.
I played JV basketball.
I'm sorry. I don't think it looks right.
This is good, and it's all good, baby.
Is it really all good?
If you love me enough to routinely test your handyman skills, not to mention the strength of your marriage, then of course you'll visit nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat to make sure I'm in the right car seat.
I'm gonna call my dad.
Meet the scan, a simple procedure whose mission is to detect lung cancer early.
I'm here to save you.
But I feel fine.
That's great, but you may still be at high risk for lung cancer.
Oh man, that's a new fence.
If you smoke, early detection could save your life. Learn more at SavedByTheScan.org.
We're back on Bobcat Breakdown. If you're just joining us, I'm your host, Maddie Kelly, joined by my analyst, Anthony Rossi and Emily Sweeney. As the fall season comes to an end, let's take a look back at some of the best photos taken during the fall, brought to you by QBSN.
The Bobcats back-to-back in the MAAC, second straight year with the MAAC championship, taking down their arch rivals, the Fairfield Stags, in emphatic fashion.
Quinnipiac with the lead, looking to get a too-low lead, and there's Morse with Morse!
Lead pass, maybe Pompeo can get her stick on it. Pompeo, they score! Cam Brower on the doorstep, and Sophia Pompeo and Lucia Pompeo set up that play.
From the point, goes to the bottom right, and he'll get his second goal of the game, and this game has completely changed in the Bobcats' favor.
This is QBSN.
Thanks to our friends at QBSN for their hard work and for taking some awesome photos throughout the fall season. Now, outside of the volleyball team, the fall season has pretty much come to an end. As we take a look back to some of the big games of the fall season, which fall team do you think had the biggest statement win this year? Anthony, lead us off.
Well, I don't know about you, Emily, but when I look at statement win, I think of highest score to lowest score.
Yeah, that's not what I think of, but continue.
But I'm going to talk to you about rugby versus AIC.
I knew you were going to say
Kat
this.
Story had 3 tries in this game. Anna Van Dyke had 100 career tackles. Look at the milestones in this game. McKenna Turner also had 2 tries in the second half alone. 80-0 win. How could I not choose this? It's just a complete demolition of AIC.
Sure, but isn't AIC, I know there's no really division in rugby just yet, but AIC as a school is a Division II school, so you're getting not as much of the talented athletes that Quinnipiac's getting. To me, a statement win is something that changes the course of the season, gives a statement to your fans, and I went with men's soccer senior day. Home versus Niagara, where they won 3-1. Now let me tell you why this is a statement. Because the Bobcats were winless. It was a 10-game winless drought that they were facing, and then officially, sun came out one day, boom, senior day, they won.
Emily,
now let me tell you,
win did nothing, right?
It showed, I'll tell you what it did.
It did
It
nothing.
showed hope for the future. This statement was that we'll be back next season, we'll come back, yes. We did win the MAAC championship, went to the NCAA last season, had a little bit of a rough patch here, but they ended off senior day with this bright smile, bright faces on all these people. You got some announcements of returners with TJ Wilder. So they were showing that we're not done yet. We're not done yet. And they have a whole nother season to get better. It was the first win out of 10 games. 10-game drought, you finally win. Boom, statement. We won, we can actually win, and we will get better next season. It is definitely more of a statement than beating a Division II team in rugby.
It just completely didn't. And if I was talking about winter sports as well, it would be women's hockey post because they won 12-1. They broke records. But this was a record-breaking game for rugby. And It just makes no sense how you can choose a team that was
This
struggling.
was a season-breaking game for men's soccer.
The entire year, and they
Yeah,
won one
exactly.
game. They win one game. Oh, let's celebrate it. No.
I'm saying it was a statement because they have somewhere to go. You do have to celebrate that. You had such a rough season for this team.
And without the
But
win
on
for rugby,
senior
they don't
day-
make the playoffs.
I get that, but rugby had been a solid team all season. So, like, yeah, they had a big win, but they've been a solid team all season. They had a solid record. Men's soccer finally got a win on senior day. The happy faces to celebrate those who are leaving. That is a statement to leave off
I'm done
on.
with this debate. Let's move on.
All right, guys. We obviously had a lot of great games this fall, but we also witnessed a lot of great individual performances. Who do you think was the best Quinnipiac athlete during the fall season this year? Let's start with Emily.
I'm glad I get to start this one off because I know I am right. Let me tell you, my player is Stella Tickmeyer from the field hockey team. Now, let me give you a little background. Before the season, she was the Big East preseason co-midfielder of the year. She followed through on that. She was the Big East midfielder of the year. Despite the Bobcats being in the bottom 3 in the division, she still won midfielder of the year without a team around her that was doing too much for her. First QU player in Big East history in 7 years to get an end of the year award. She also was the first person in program history to be on the all Big East team twice. She had 2 game-winning goals on the season, which was tied for first. And to be a top player on a lower-ranked team is something that's so difficult. To get the recognition of being midfielder of the year in the Big East around a team that wasn't supporting you that much throughout the season says something about this individual athlete and her accolades.
You know, I do agree with you. This is an amazing pick from Stella Tickmeyer. It's between her and my athlete. I have Sofia Lospinoso, who had an unbelievable season. She won MAAC Goalie of the Year.
Oh my God.
She went 12-4-1 on the year. She had her highest save percentage ever, with a .673 save percentage, a 1.1 goals against average. She had 7 shutouts on the year.
She also had the defenders of the year surrounding her, so
Exactly.
it wasn't all
That
on her.
team was unbelievable.
What she did wasn't all on her. She had the defenders. Stella
understand
Tickmeyer did not have that.
I understand that. Just let me cook for a second here.
You're just not right here, Anthony.
This team doesn't win the majority of their games if they don't have Lospinoso in
Or
net.
if they don't have the defenders in front of her stopping everything
understand
before
that.
it gets there, making the shots easier
But
to save.
sometimes those defenders aren't fully there.
But
She's
not
making
often.
big saves in the game.
Not
She's able
often.
to control those defenders.
Tickmeyer had to control the entire team.
Dave Clark
she had to
talked
control
about
the
this.
entire team. The 30-30, all Stella
Lospinoso
Tickmeyer
is able
every
to
single
control
game.
her entire team
Oh my
around
God.
her. If you go to a women's soccer game, you hear her screaming.
The women's
I can
soccer
hear
team
her
at
from the
Quinnipiac,
field hockey stadium sometimes.
The women's soccer team at Quinnipiac, Anthony, had a sweep of the awards in the MAAC. You know who didn't? The field hockey team. Stella Tickmeyer, the only one. She was the controller of that squad, and she stood out. Lospinoso had so much help from the defenders of the year. She also had a lot of help on the forward ends, too. Sure, I just think Stella Tickmeyer is the better answer because she didn't have other people to rely on
And
consistently
Lospinoso
throughout the year.
kept them in that Brown game too in the NCAA tournament.
All right, guys, let's turn down the heat here, please. With that, it is time for our last break of the night. But when we come back, the 3 of us will give our final roars.
When we adopt a shelter pet, we discover they're a unique mix of all kinds of things.
Come on, Drew, spot me on this last one. There it is.
Keep going with it. Leo. They're a little bit of a lot of things, but they're all pure love.
I know what you're thinking. I need a job.
I need a new career.
Well,
I've been there.
I've been there.
I've been there. I wasn't happy with what I was doing.
After high school, I didn't have a plan.
I just wanted to start working.
I got laid off twice, but you gotta keep going.
You just need the right skills. Find an apprenticeship.
I found a 2-year IT program.
I found a medical course online.
I'm now a consultant in the tech space.
You have more options than you think. You can do this.
You will find something.
You will find something new.
Welcome back to Bobcat Breakdown. It is time to get into our final roars. Anthony, let's start with you.
During the first show of the year, I talked about how this first-year class has to show out and stand out. And during the fall season, some of them did just that. Like I predicted, Evelyn Key became a real standout player on the women's soccer team, finishing tied for 5th in points, scoring 2 goals and assisting on 3, the exact same stat line as graduate student Markayla Bailary. One player that went completely under my radar from the first show was Leilani Kaijusa from the volleyball team, who really brought the intensity and the emotion to the team while also being a huge impact player. The rookie played in 62 sets, scoring 182 kills on the season, which was good for 3rd on the team. But enough talking about fall, let's go into the winter ones. So we all know that Caitlin LaMarche has been dominating recently for the women's ice hockey team, having a great rookie campaign. But there's 2 standouts that I've noticed on the men's side of things, that being Mason Marcellus and Andon Sorbonne. And they've been really coming into their own as of recent, and the two have had a really strong connection with each other. They slot nicely on a line with Travis Trueler, balancing everything out, and the 3 have a chemistry that I was shocked it developed so quickly with one another. So make sure to keep an eye out on these 3 rookies for the rest of the winter season. They've already cracked the top of some lists on the national level, and I expect them to stay there for the foreseeable future.
I want to take a minute to talk about one of my favorite parts of covering Quinnipiac sports and how it has changed my coverage for the better, which is the relationships you build with those you cover. The stronger your professional relationship with a coach, player, or team, the better the content you can create will be. When it comes down to it, it's all about comfortability. If the athletes are comfortable with the person interviewing them, then they will go into more detail about their story. While if they don't have a good relationship with the journalist, they may hold back, and that goes for the coaches as well. As the volleyball season comes to an end, I've been reflecting on the relationships myself and some of my colleagues at Q30, such as Gage Kilborn, have been able to build with the squad players and coaching staff during our 4 seasons here. I quickly realized the drastic difference in our work from before we fostered a relationship and after, as well as how the relationship is both beneficial to both parties. The coaches and players gain professional coverage, and us as journalists, we get to gain better storylines. But relationships with teams aren't the only ones that journalists should be sure to foster. Relationships with the athletic communication staff are just as important. If a journalist shows the SIDs respect and fosters a good relationship with them, they are more likely to not only help you out when you need an interview, but to also begin to trust you enough to allow you to do more creative projects. Projects such as when Keith Savage practiced with the field hockey team for a day for Q30. Overall, I want to encourage any journalist to begin fostering relationships with both teams and the athletic communication staff. Ask them about their family or how their weekend was. Take an interest in them and let them take an interest in you, and I guarantee it will both help your content and make your time covering these teams much more special.
Throughout the year on the show, people have harped on the importance of upperclassmen when it comes to building a strong foundation for their team. Now, granted, yes, upperclassmen are vital to the success of the team, but for some first years this fall, they met and even exceeded high expectations that were placed upon them from the jump. Starting off with Katie Shanahan, it is clear she filled the role of one of field hockey's most solid defensive players. Starting every single game of the season, Shanahan totaled 1,045 minutes and 25 shots. Evelyn Kay also proved her abilities on the soccer field. Coming all the way from Washington, Kay played in every game, scoring 3 times with a shot-on-goal percentage of over .500. Sticking with soccer, Francesco Ferreira on the men's team displayed what a key midfielder can do. The Portugal native started in 10 games this season, scoring 3 times with a shot-on-goal percentage of .600. Now, this is just a small recap of 3 of many great first-year fall athletes. I think I can say for everyone that not only are we excited to see how these teams will drive throughout the years, but how this fall's first years will take the wheel. Well, that's all the time we have tonight on Bobcat Breakdown. Make sure to follow us on social media at Q30 Sports and stay connected online at Q30TV.com. From our producers and the team that makes the magic happen behind the scenes, he's Anthony Rossi, she's Emily Sweeney, and I'm Maddie Kelly. This has been Bobcat Breakdown. Good night, Bobcats.